Hey there guys, it is Siwasepl and welcome to my final thoughts on Killer is Dead for the PlayStation 3. First up, if you want to avoid any potential spoilers, go to the time on the screen right now to go to my final spoiler-free summary for the game. And, as a little note, I went into this game blind, not knowing really anything about it. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the bad of Killer is Dead. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the bad section first, mainly because there's not that much that I feel is worth talking about. And a lot of what I am talking about can be fixed in other ways, which I'll get to. The first thing I'd like to talk about is a very minor thing. It's the side missions. The gigolo missions and all the, kill this amount of enemies in a short amount of time missions, I just didn't really find them to be of anything of substance. The gigolo missions are entertaining the first few times you do them. You get a new animation, depending on how well you did or how many times you've done it, I guess. But they're not really fun. They're just there. I guess in an attempt to make the game a little bit sexier, but it falls on deaf ears here. I just don't find that stuff in video games at all sexy. And the side missions of just kill a certain amount of enemies or protect this person, they're there. They're a nice distraction, but ultimately that's all they are, is just a short distraction from the main game. Another minor thing I had an issue with was the controls. It just took a little bit getting used to some of the quirks in the mechanics of the gameplay and fighting. But like I said, it's a minor thing. Once you get used to the controls, you're good. It just has an interesting learning curve about it. One of the two biggest things that I had a problem with this game was the screen tearing and the resolution. All kind of wrapped into one. The resolution, it was just blurry. And I guess when I say resolution, I really mean the texture quality. It just came off as blurry, even with the art style of the game. And the screen tearing, along with kind of the frame rate was pretty okay. I don't think it ever dipped below unacceptable levels, but the screen tearing definitely did. The screen tearing was basically a companion with you in this game. There was no going anywhere without it. It was prevalent everywhere. There was so much of it, it just started to take away from my enjoyment of the visual style of the game, which is a really bad thing because this game does look amazing, which I'll talk about later in the good section, but the screen tearing damn near ruined it. To go back to something I hinted at earlier, the reason that this section came up so early is mainly because of this issue. The screen tearing, the frame rate, and the resolution, these are a bad thing, but they ultimately get fixed on PC. So while it's a problem for the PlayStation 3 version, it's only a problem for the PlayStation 3 version, and I guess possibly the Xbox 360, but I haven't really played that one, so I can't tell you. I can say it is a problem for the PS3, but the PC eliminates that problem. What the PC doesn't eliminate are the missions and the abrupt ending. I was so enjoying this game, and then the ending just happened. What I thought was going to be moving into another act just turned into be the ending. And I sat there just kind of hoping there was more, and there wasn't. You could say that's a good thing, but I felt it just ended a little bit too soon. People argue about how long games should be, whether they should be long or short, and I am of the camp that I believe games should be however long the developer thinks it would take to basically give the player the experience that they want to. However, in this case, I feel the game just didn't really fulfill the experience that it was trying to give. So that's why I'm including this in the bad section. Okay, that is it for the bad of the game, at least the more notable parts of it. So, let's go ahead and get on to the good of Killer is Dead. Alright, let's start off with something pretty simple that I think everyone can understand. Suda51. Suda51, however you want to say his name. He is a good thing about this game. Every single one of the games that he puts out, he directs, he's involved in, they might be hit or miss gameplay-wise, but it's always going to have that Suda flair to it. And that's definitely seen in Killer is Dead, along with all the little quirky jokes, the little design choices, the levels, the weapons, the story. Every little thing has Suda put into it in some way. Which kind of goes into everything that is good about this game. One of which is the story. Now, this story was very vague. And that could be a pretty tough thing to pull off, but I think Killer is Dead pulled that off very well. It was just vague enough to where they only really revealed things that they thought were important at the time. It leaves this mystery of not being able to know everything, and yet want to know everything. It could have easily gone into the vague category of, well, this story is so vague, I don't really care, I'm here for the gameplay, kind of like Dark Souls, where the story is there and it's incredibly interesting, but it's all backstory. You know what you gotta do, so go do it. Killer is Dead really pulls off the we've told you what to do, go do it, but yet there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that, hey, you might want to know about. And of course, it doesn't hurt that they do bring the story to the foreground during the cutscenes. Which, by the way, look and sound fantastic. The visual style of the game is so sharp. There were times that I legitimately forgot this was a PlayStation 3 game. The visual style really pushed past the muddy textures and the screen tearing at a lot of points, which is why I felt those took away from the experience. But yet the art style is really able to kind of push past those problems. The music is another aspect which really sells this game's story and gameplay. The music was done by Akira Yamaoka, and it just has his flair all over it. His music is always enjoyable, from his stuff that he worked on with Silent Hill, from Lollipop Chainsaw, to this game. It just made the game so much better in that aspect. You would just be walking along with no enemies, and the music would still be driving you forward. He knows where to make it hard and gritty, and he knows when to make it suspenseful and eerie and wondrous. Overall, I think he has done an amazing job with this soundtrack and everything that the music does to enhance the game. Now, the music and the visuals alone couldn't just keep this game from staying afloat. So the gameplay really keeps this game sailing. The gameplay has a weird mixture of downtime where there are really no enemies and you can kind of semi-explore the level, and then it immediately jumps into having multiple enemies trying to attack you, or jump into a small mini-boss or a turret section. I would say it's a very diverse game, but in all honesty, this is what a lot of third-person action games have done before. It's nothing really new, but it's kind of necessary, because the mechanics of the game make it seem like it's very overwhelming at first. but it's actually quite easy to learn how the game should be played, and you eventually do feel like you're in an intense battle that you can handle. But you still need the downtime to cool off from the battle, but not too much so that you're not rusty or unprepared for the next battle. Now, if you mix all of this, the good gameplay, the interesting mechanics, the music, the art, and the fact that this was a Suda game, and you've got one hell of a good time. Okay, so that is all for the good section of Killer is Dead. Now let's move on to what it was like to Let's Play the game. Overall, it was a very fun game to Let's Play. There weren't too many issues with recording or editing. The screen tearing definitely was an issue, just mainly because I like to present games without screen tearing. It just drives me insane. It's a tough thing for me to look past, so the fact that the game was actually able to is a good sign. But there were a couple times that I had issues with copyright, so if you intend to Let's Play this game, be aware that the 51st mission, 51, the Suda mission, and a couple of the missions near the end are gonna probably strike some copyright issues. Okay, now that that is all out of the way, let's go ahead and get into a summary for it. Killer is Dead is a somewhat short to medium length game that provides great music and great artistic design mixed with gameplay that seems complicated but is easy to learn, and unfortunately suffers from a disappointing ending, as well as some frame rate issues and a lot of screen tearing issues on the PlayStation 3 version, which is fixed on the PC. Considering that this game usually goes for around $5 on Steam, that would be the version I would recommend. But if you were keen on picking it up on PlayStation 3, I think if you can find it somewhere around $20 to $25, that would be the ideal price point for this game. Mainly due to the fact that it is an older game and it's only going to get older. But that is it for my final thoughts on Killer is Dead. Thank you guys so much for watching them. If you want to see some more final thoughts, I will have them somewhere on the screen. I've done some final thoughts on Crash Bandicoot and another Suda game, Shadows of the Damned, as well as Tomb Raider. You can see my thoughts on those by clicking those videos, and I'm gonna head to the next thing, whatever it may be, guys, and I hope to see you there.